Welcome back. Now, as you heard earlier, Nova Scotia's Attorney General says that no one will be prosecuted for identifying Rehtaeh Parsons as a victim in a recent high-profile child pornography case unless her name is used in a derogatory manner. Now, a judge placed the mandatory ban on Parsons' identity in May in the case of two young men charged with child pornography offences. Both of Parsons' parents opposed the ban. Her father, Glen Canning, often wore T-shirts bearing her name during court proceedings. The Chronicle Herald did break the ban in a story about one of the men who pleaded guilty to distributing child pornography. He will be sentenced in January. The other young man was given a conditional discharge for making child pornography. Now, photos of Rehtaeh were taken in November 2011 during a house party. She then attempted to kill herself in April 2013 and passed away a few days later after she was taken off life support. For more on yesterday's decision, I'm joined now by Rehtaeh's father, Glen Canning. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a case that's so familiar to our viewers. It's changed the justice system in Canada. What's your reaction to the fact that now you can finally say your daughter's name again?
It feels like a victory in a way. You know, we're very relieved. We've always tried to say her name, but it just seemed so wrong that we couldn't actually get it published anywhere. So it was. A huge conversation started after Rehtaeh's death about sexual assault and cyberbullying, and this just almost seemed to put a veil over it. And now the veil's been lifted, and it was almost lifted like it was just a dark cloud that went away. It was very frustrating to talk about her case and to talk about the trials and sentencing going ahead and be on the media where they're saying, okay, don't say your name, and we can't identify you. And sometimes my face would be blurred out, you know, and that was to us. It was sad. I think that, you know, we started a really good conversation about some very important topics we need to keep addressing in Canada, and it took away from it. And for us, too, it was frustrating because it was a law that was meant to protect victims, and in this case, you know, it's far too little too late to have a law like that, you know. And when we're asking for laws to be enforced to help protect our daughter, they just weren't. So it came across as a very frustrating time for us, but yesterday was a good day, one of the few good days that we've had. But for sure, you know, my thanks go to Minister Diab and the decision to do this. It was the right thing to do.
Before we get into the meeting you had yesterday, you were very open about yesterday talking about how the ban being in place really set back your efforts to move forward the progress that you'd made with cyberbullying. For example, engagements that you had to be canceled. Talk a little bit about that, because I don't think many viewers understand.
Well, that's the problem that we had with it, because it was a publication ban, and then they talked, well, there's a publication ban on her name. And people took that out of context. They really did. You can still talk about Rehtaeh Parsons, you just couldn't do it in reference to the child pornography charges or the child porn case. But that was misunderstood, and I had a lot of speaking engagements that I've done, especially in Ontario at high schools and universities. But then some of them found out this ban's there, and they were like, well, we have to cancel your appearance. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm coming into your high school to talk to your kids about cyberbullying and about standing up for others, and it's an important conversation to have. But they were like, no, we've spoken to legal people, and they said there's a publication ban, and we're going to err on the side of caution, and they just outright canceled them. And that was upsetting, you know, because we're trying to do something good with our daughter's name, you know, and we're trying to do some positive things, and to suddenly have it erased like that, you know, it was like I said, frustrating. It was just beyond frustrating.
Yeah. So, all right, yesterday you get a phone call from Minister Diab. You sit down. What happens?
Well, we got a call on Monday, actually, and they wanted to meet with us 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. So we agreed to it. Leah couldn't make the meeting, but she was on teleconference.
Okay.
She was very busy in Winnipeg this week. So we sat down, and the minister came in, as well as the director of public prosecutions in Nova Scotia and a couple other people. But Minister Diab got right to the point. She just said, you know, I'm just here bringing you in right now to let you know we're issuing a directive on the publication ban in Rehtaeh's name, so that her name will be able to be used in the media. And that was emotional. It was, you know, it was, like I said, you know, you don't get a whole lot of victories right now, but when that happened, I knew that Leah, you could tell by her voice that she got emotional, and I did a little bit, you know, just because it's just happy, thank you, you know, like, thank you. I mean, small things like that may seem insignificant to people, but to us, I mean, this is our child. Yeah. How would people feel if they were in our shoes? You know, you would be emotional over small things like that. They seem small, but to us, this was massive. It was huge. So she said that, and she read it off, and we were in and out there, a very quick meeting. As soon as I left, well, I felt too, going into it, my wife Krista kept saying, don't get your hopes up, don't get your hopes up, because I always do. I'm like, but I kept thinking, why else would they call me in there? I'm sure they wouldn't call me in there to just rehash the same position that they've had, because that just wouldn't have seemed like the right thing to do. They could have sent me an email to do something like that. But, when I left there, I immediately, first thing I did, I got on the phone right away. I contacted Ryan Van Horn. He's a freelance journalist in Halifax who took an awful big chance by breaking this publication ban, and I wanted to just let him know that he can break the story, basically, and this is what just happened. Then I called my wife, Krista, and there was no answer. She was busy at work, so I texted her, and I just texted the line, we have her name back, and that's all I had to say.
Well, I'm really appreciative that you came in. It's very clear that you're a dad who loves her daughter. You're trying to make something good out of something absolutely horrible, and now you can get back to your good work. And I wanted you to just share with our viewers this foundation that you've set up, the society in Rehtaeh's name, because now it's full steam ahead. You can go forward and do the work that your daughter's spirit is helping you do. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. The Rehtaeh Parsons Society, it's something that, just hearing about her name, what the issues are going to be about. It's going to be about cyberbullying, spreading intimate images. It's going to be about sexual assault, consent issues, and that's probably one of the biggest ones for me right now is issues of consent. The people involved with this case with Rehtaeh, they don't believe that they did anything wrong because they have a complete, total misunderstanding of what consent is. To them, rape means someone screaming and fighting and crying, and anything other than that wasn't rape. To them, it was consensual. And this starts in high school, and it really does, and even junior high, where there's a misconception of it. So to us, to have that issue brought into schools would be a pretty big thing. And I know in Nova Scotia that would go an awful long way to combating sexual violence and even violence against women. It would be if we started talking about this in high school and junior high. To this day, I don't believe that we are. And if I give an example, I did a quick talk at a high school in Bridgewater in the spring. A class of probably about 30, 40 young women, and I was there with the Sexual Assault Center, and the counselor asked, if a girl goes out and to a boy's house or there's a party and she has too much to drink and something happens to her with the boys, how many people here think it's her fault? And half of the hands in that room went up.
Yep.
So you think about it now, if one of those girls, that actually happens to her, she's going to think it's her fault. And the other girls are going to think it wasn't rape. What was she thinking? And that's exactly what would happen. And that does happen, and that has to change. It has to change. That's how out of touch we are right now with rape laws in Nova Scotia, and we have to change that. And it would be an easy thing to change.
Well, now you can go forward and keep pushing that and get the conversation out there. Just quickly before you go, because we're out of time, I know that you said that it's hard for you, that it's not easy for you. A lot of people see you're strong and you're talking out in the media, but every day you wrestle with this, right? And it's just people who contact you and say, thank you for talking about this. Thank you for finally bringing this out that keeps you going. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. Lots of people out there get in touch with us and get in touch with me, and they're looking for help. I don't know how I wouldn't be able to. You try to do what you can. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Sometimes people just want to talk. But I think the most important thing for people to know is that there's people out here in Halifax and in Nova Scotia who care about this issue and care about them. And the most important thing with sexual violence is you always have to start by believing them. And I always make sure people know that. I believe you, absolutely.
Glen Canning, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.